Hey there, Impact Church. Welcome back to another Focus Friday, July edition. We are continuing on in our theme for this month of faith, and I love this theme. Cameron started out with a couple key statements saying that faith has a voice and also faith has a direction. Well, this week I want to encourage you that faith has an answer. Faith has the answer. And faith is a beautiful thing. It is one of the unique things about Christianity that really sets us apart from the rest of the world. And faith, in its most elementary form, is really what gives us access to walk into a heavenly eternity with God, our Father. But I want to take us on a bit of a deeper journey tonight and talk about another level of faith to see amazing things happen here on earth, faith to believe for more, and faith to see things that the world themselves never thought was possible. And even better, Jesus actually even tells us that we can step into and tap into, we have access to the faith of God. That's right, we can access God's faith in our very life. Now, Romans 12, verse 3 says that we have each been given a measure of faith. You and I have been given measures of faith. Now, faith, to me, I see faith like a muscle. And faith is something that we can grow. Faith is something that we can stretch and we can exercise and cause it to grow and stretch, just like you would a muscle. You know, the human body has over 650 different muscles. Now, my muscles look slightly different than Arnold Schwarzenegger's muscles, just a little bit, not by much. But he exercises and stretches his muscles on a regular basis. As you can tell, a little more than I do. But he has actually the exact same amount of muscles that I do, which means I have the potential to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And when this whole quarantine thing is over, I'll be looking like the beach body of Arnold Schwarzenegger. No promises. But my faith believes that. Anyways, I would say that my faith, I stretch my faith muscle much like he stretches his physical muscles, and I can cause them to grow. And we can all cause our faith muscles to grow much larger by stretching them, by activating them, by utilizing them, by taking part in different activities that would cause our faith to grow, by praying for people and praying for bigger things that we didn't even think possible in the natural. And another way we can stretch our faith is by giving it away. Wow, what a concept. That sounds like something weird. What am I talking about? Well, Jesus said in Luke chapter 6, verse 38, he said, "Give and it will be given to you in good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For the measure you use, it will be measured to you." So when we give out of the measures that we have, when we give out of the amount of faith, a small amount of faith that we have, God then pours out an abundance, even more of faith that he has. We are trading from our little measurement of faith, and God is pouring out from his storehouses in the heavenly kingdom down into ours. So we must learn to give away the measure of faith that we have attained, knowing that as we're giving it away, God is actually then going to supersize our measure of faith with what he has in his storehouse into our life. And you might be saying, "Oh, that's all well and great, but I don't know how to do these big, great, faith movement type things. I don't know how to go out and pray for somebody. I don't know how to do great things." Well, recently I stumbled upon a great quote from Martin Luther King. He said this. He said, "If you can't do great things, do small things in a great way." Wow. Last month, I shared that it is about chasing after the one. Well, you know what? It starts with a small event. You know what is a great thing? You know what is a great way to do a small thing? Faith. Faith is a great way of doing things. God wants us to step out even in the small areas, but in a great way by faith. Now, not only is it the coolest thing ever that God supersizes our faith, Jesus actually takes us on an even deeper journey by saying that we can have the faith of God. And that is the faith that will cause heaven to step down in earth and just flood the earth with all of heaven's kingdom. In Mark chapter 11, verses 12 to 14 and 20 to 24, I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but the story is when Jesus was walking with his disciples, and they walked past a fig tree, and Jesus, he cursed the fig tree. Then the next day, the disciples were walking back with Jesus. They passed this fig tree again, and it had completely withered up. And the disciples were, of course, blown away. They're amazed by that. And Jesus goes on to say in verses 22 to 24, says, "Have faith in God," Jesus answered. Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Go and throw yourself into the sea,' and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they said will happen, it will be done for them. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." I want to highlight that first passage in verse 22. It says, "Have faith in God." Jesus said, "Have faith in God." Well, studying a little bit more into this verse, actually almost every biblical scholar would agree that the translation from the original Greek into the English, actually that word "in" of have faith in God, that word "in" doesn't actually exist in the Greek. So it is more appropriately translated, "have God's faith," or "have the faith of God." Do you notice the difference? There's a difference between having faith in God and having the faith of God, where Jesus is actually saying, have God's faith. Now, he wouldn't tell us to do anything if we didn't have access to do it. If we couldn't do it, he wouldn't say it. So he is saying, have God's faith. It is an invitation and an impartation to have God's faith, to do amazing things that we never thought possible here on this earth. And if you want another verse to back this up, Galatians 2:20, Paul says, "My life is empowered by the faith of the Son of God." Paul's life was an amazing example of heaven on earth. And he lived by the faith of God, not faith in God, although he obviously had that. But this is another level of faith, the faith of God into your life. And this is such a beautiful picture that when we feel like we have run our measure into the ground and we feel so stretched and so empty in our faith, we feel like we have nothing left, then we can lean in to God's faith and to do those amazing things. When I think about, limbs growing out or raising the dead or any of that kind of stuff, I don't have the faith for that. But you know who does? God does. God has the faith for those kind of things. And so when I want to see those things happen, I start to lean in to the faith of God so that I can see those things come to pass here on earth. Church, I want to encourage you that whatever you are up against in this season, whatever you're facing, if your back's against the wall, I want you to lean into the faith of God. If you feel like you have no more faith to pray, then tap into God's faith and watch as the impossibilities in your life start to vanish, start to dwindle into nothing, because you're doing it under God's strength and God's ability and not your own. Church, faith has the answer.